Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we've been working on strengthening our feet for a while now, which is why we partnered with Naboso technology. These are the mats, these are the balls, these are the things that you see us standing on during the podcast. And the main reason why is because of the texture on the mats helps drive sensation and stimulation and blood flow to the bottoms of your feet, which is going to be super important as you're trying to get more out of your feet over time. The Neuro ball, which is what they also have on their website, is 2 different balls connected together, but you can smash your feet against it while you're working, while you're sitting, while you're chilling. These are all things that you can do passively so you can get stronger in the long run. Andrew, how can they learn more about it?
To learn more, you guys got to head over to naboso.com. That's Naboso.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 15% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm thinking about growing my hair out a bit. Quinn Bell, she's like, you need to do something with your hair. She's like, when's the last time you had a whole head of hair? And I was like, I don't know.
When is the last time you had a whole head of hair?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Maybe like, I don't know, 16, something like that. 18.
Really?
Yeah.
I swear I saw a wrestling picture with you and Mad Dog.
Oh, yeah,
That's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, 20, that'd be like 25, 26.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I, had it with the mustache thing where I did the, that was, but like that wasn't like hair. That was like a flat top.
There it is, flat top, yeah.
When you have hair, it's like a sergeant's haircut. Like it's like, the guy from Street Fighter, blonde hair.
Guile.
Oh, yeah.
Guile. It's kind of like Guile, but shorter and brown. Pull up Guile.
Dude, Guile was the fucking...
Actually,
The thing is, I don't know. I don't know what would go on with my hair. I gotta it's like a whole thing to figure out. And I was telling her, I was like, I think in order to make this work, I have to get my hair cut a bunch. Because like you go through weird, remember you were making fun of your girlfriend for her hair a while back? Because you go through like weird transitional phases, right?
Yeah. Dude, if you grew it out.
That's sick.
I mean,
Dude,
it wouldn't come
sick.
out wide, but like,
It can.
actually, I think it could come out
Get that
wide.
video game hair going.
Look at that.
Dude, that'd be so dope. if
Dude,
you
I'd
did a
have to
Guile.
start fucking throwing kicks and punches at the heavy bag.
Dog, I think you should. Oh, is that a live action Guile on the far right or the action figure?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh my.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Man.
Maybe that's the new one? I don't know.
Yeah.
OG.
I think that'd be a look for you.
You never know. I guess we'll work on it and see what happens. It's gonna take a while though, I think.
Not for you. Your shit grows pretty quick, man.
Yeah, it grows pretty quick, but
Yeah, but you can't leave us behind though.
probably take
Like
a long time.
we're gonna. I can't choose to grow more hair.
Could after the mission's complete, we can get you guys like a wig or something, and we could do a whole show where we'll all have hair.
I think we should. Okay, so you're doing that with your hair. I don't know what you're gonna do with your face, but you could do something with it. Andrew, why don't you do like a little Jordan?
I don't know.
The Jordan stash, right?
Oh yeah, that Michael Jordan style. I remember that.
Right? Do that.
I might end up looking like Gomez Adams.
Who's Gomez Adams?
From the Adams Family. Come on.
Nah, pull him up. Dog. I mean, I know I've watched it, but it's
You
been
talking
there.
about a Charlie Chaplin mustache?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
that's pretty popular,
I'm gonna end up like that.
or it was popular. Oh yeah,
That works too. That works too. But I feel like, Andrew, you have such thick facial hair that you could do
Actually,
some really
imagine
cool
if
shit with
Andrew just came in with just a mustache.
it. Just
I could just look at. I mean, I could
I'd sit right on his face.
mustache rides. I could.
I mean, and he knows how to defend it now, but I'd still try.
yeah.
I mean, if it's that far in, I got not much, not many answers.
Deep cheeks?
Yeah, once you're already that far in. Yeah.
You know, have you guys ever really paid attention to, like, in those Marvel movies, when they have the male characters, they always do wild beards, and it's like just seen as normal.
Oh, yeah.
Like Falcon had some weird sharp shit going on.
He did have a weird thing. Yeah.
And Tony Stark had some fucking wild lines
He
going
had a
on,
bunch
but
of
like
lines.
it just works for some reason.
in Endgame,
you could do that.
Yeah, in Endgame when he like goes back in time to see his dad on accident, but they kept saying like, oh, he's got some hippie beard. it was just funny.
Andrew could have like a Wyatt Earp thing going on, like where the mustache takes up kind of the whole face.
I don't know. I haven't really ever got too creative with it.
You said
Like,
wide Earp.
Wyatt Earp. What's
It's like it's got the handlebars.
what's goddamn drawing a blank on the dude's name, but yeah, Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, he's got a sick mustache.
This is the like actual Wyatt Earp, but
Dude, you gotta have the biggest dick to pull that off. And Andrew, I mean, I think that's actually speaking for you.
know.
How
Like,
about
we know
more of
that's
a-
true.
Okay, that might be a little too
That's
too
too
much.
much.
That's gonna blow in the wind. But what about like Sam Elliott?
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Dude, your wife would be, I think.
I mean, thankfully, I'm neutered, so I'm okay.
Look at that.
Dude, Andrew, I could
And
actually
then
see
once
you
it,
rocking that.
yeah,
hardcore,
once
man.
it starts,
Because look at
starts
like
to
how
turn color.
like it's really pronounced right here, right till it goes into the beard.
I don't know how to maintain it though. Like I can't. Like I don't
We
know.
just
how
need
to.
a day or two for pictures. That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that works.
Then we can move on.
I can dig that. I can get with that.
You know,
I'm pretty excited about today's guest.
Yeah. who we got?
I think if you look at like the explosion of TRT places around the country, I think we're going to find, I don't know, at some point this whole thing will like kind of level out. But I think on top of people just utilizing these hormone therapy places as a spot to just get steroids, basically, I think it will turn more into a route of people just utilizing them for like wellness in general. Because there's literally hundreds of thousands of different things you can do to help your situation, to help yourself be healthier, including using some sort of cold hot therapy, including getting sunlight in the morning. I heard Andrew Huberman talking with Scholes about the chewing gum, and trying to increase the jaw, and that can help with your sleep, and your sleep obviously helps with lots of hormones and so on.
wow, there was some fasting gum. Anyway.
There's so many things you can do, right? And you're hearing more and more people talking about like psychedelics. There's I've heard multiple times, I don't know if it's just the people I hang around, but I've heard multiple people trying to figure out ways of opening up psychedelic churches, which is a really interesting thing. But I think because you call it a church, then there's separation of church and state, and you get to administer, your
Congregation.
your communion. You get to give them, instead of give them a little cracker and some wine or whatever, I don't know, you give them some LSD or something.
I think that's great.
I think that is great.
I'd go to that church.
I know those exist for like smoking weed. Like before it was legal, like that was a thing too.
There you go.
So it's worked.
And today's guest, Thomas Feegel, he has a facility in Mexico where he's able to treat people, and it's like a treatment center. It's like a rehab center of sorts. So hopefully you can explain it more to us, and I don't have some of my information jumbled up. But it's like a resort that you can go to, and you would get administered whatever psychedelics and whatever other things they think that you may need to get you through whatever psychological damage you may have discovered in your past. So things, people that have like PTSD, and people who have, I don't know, maybe other emotional problems, or people who are just going through a tough divorce or whatever it may be, they can choose these other routes. We know through even just some science, it appears that a lot of the drugs that are out there a lot of the pharmaceuticals aren't nearly as effective as we would like. And so I think it's awesome to try to have people have alternative means. And in this particular case, Thomas Feegel, I believe the main thing that they utilize is Ibogaine, which I just think is a fascinating drug. It comes from like a tree bark. Maybe it's somewhat similar to like psilocybin mushrooms, where it's we'll have him explain it so I don't fuck it all up. But I don't know. I just think these things are interesting. Maybe you can hit like a reset button on your life and where you're at. My brother's had some experiences with it, and he was even telling me, he's like, I think it would be amazing for you to do. And I don't really feel like I have like a trauma of any kind. But he's like, I just think it's like, he's like, talk about performance enhancement. He's like, I think this is the ultimate performance enhancement.
Iboga?
Yeah. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to have this guy on the show is that I think that this stuff will become so powerful. There'll be a point where this is getting administered throughout the United States, similar in a way of like TRT clinics popping up. I don't know in what way or what manner or what fashion, but I do know that the pharmaceutical companies are trying to mimic things that work very similar to these psychedelic drugs.
Yeah, it would be cool if it did become something that, like a TRT clinic or like an HRT clinic. But the thing is I wonder, because it's so powerful, because psilocybin can make such a difference with such little drawback and so few, bad things happening, it's not easy to make money with that as like for pharmaceutical companies. It's so effective. And people aren't having to come back for more and more and more, that it's not profitable. So it's like, will they be okay with that?
Yeah, and you don't want to get like whatever conspiracy theorists, whatever. But right, like if it's cheap to make and it's very effective to where you don't have to keep coming back, then it's like, where's the incentive to actually put this in practice?
I don't even think there's conspiracy behind what you said. I think it's just true. Like there's
been some studies that have been done, and this was even mentioned on the Today Show, which things are moving quick when it's mentioned on a show like that.
Yeah.
I believe it was mushrooms. Mushrooms were utilized, and it is regarded as a pretty well done study. I want to say it was like something like 50% of the people didn't want to drink anymore, and there was something like 30% of people. It was like 30%. It was like 30% of those people, they weren't even necessarily like that addicted to alcohol, but they drank occasionally and they just had no desire to drink. And then they followed up. They had follow-up studies because, like, obviously, like once you administer a treatment, it's like it's easy to say, well, look, it worked. We did this for 12 weeks. But I think they did follow-ups. I don't know how far later the follow-ups were done. But that kind of stuff is just fascinating. Like if even if those percentages are off by 10, 20%, like imagine if it's like, hey, we put people through utilizing these mushrooms for X amount of weeks and 20% of them got real. I mean, there's so many things that happen with alcoholism that are so dangerous to the person that's drinking, to someone that might get behind a vehicle, to the way they treat to the relationships they have. So, I mean, to me, I think that this is a big breakthrough. And if there was a drug that they came up with, that someone came up with that had the similar result, I mean, I think we would throw this person up on our shoulders and we'd be parading around the streets with them, because that's pretty profound.
Even the bigger thing, though, is like, for example, with that study, 50%, and let's just say it was even 20%, but no side effects. Okay, but it was 50%, no side effects. Majority of like pharmaceutical drugs do have side effects.
Yeah.
I know a friend who uses antidepressants, but if they forget to take anything like in the morning, then they'll start to like get tingles and they'll start to get numbness in their fingers because they haven't taken it yet, or they forgot to take it. Now, it does help them, it is effective, but when not taken, their whole body starts to feel off. That's not something that happens with psilocybin.
And I think that, to say no side effects, like just the side effects are way less, right? And they're less known and
Thank
stuff.
you for being responsible.
And stuff like that, right?
Thank
like
you
there's
for being responsible.
Well, we just have to be honest. Like anytime we talk about anything on the show, I heard somebody more recently talking about vegetables being cancerous, and it's like, well, all foods have a cancer association to them, because a lot of people get cancer and we don't know why. So we can point to so many different things for that.
It's the kale.
And as much as we love beef, beef cooked a certain way is supposed to have TAO in it, or TOA, or whatever the fuck it is.
Tomatoes.
Yeah. Beef turns into tomatoes, which then therefore
No wonder.
is a carcinogen.
This whole time.
But, I think that these things do lend themselves to being a great option to people. And I dig it. I think it could be great. A huge downside that I could potentially see is that, people would do this without supervision. And I believe that there probably could be a lot of people that could do it without supervision.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of people that, when you take something like mushrooms, I don't know what Ibogaine is like at all, but when you take something like mushrooms, it's a trip, and you don't have a choice about which portal you kind of go down. And if you're somebody that had traumas, like this could be awakening some stuff that is maybe really powerful. And it could be said that maybe like during that time that you would really panic and freak out. And I think you need someone there.
Dosing is important. I'm actually really happy you mentioned that because like, I mean, I slowly got myself to a higher dose, like over time.
Yeah, if you just blast it, you might find yourself in a corner crying your eyes out.
Yeah, dude. Like dosing is important. When I did a big dose, like I kind of knew what to expect at that point because I've done smaller doses before. So I was like, okay, this is going to amplify. And it was great. But if I went straight into that, dog, that would have been like, oh shit, my dogs are gonna kill me. Like, you know, I'm not necessarily.
Are these things wolves? Holy shit!
These are.
Do I have an open wound?
Why is he sniffing me? Does he smell blood? Nah, but yeah, you're totally right about the dosing. Dosing is important, and yes, having somebody that knows, that has experienced it, that maybe could be there if you're new to it, could be really beneficial. Also, knowing not to operate a motor vehicle, because with a lot of these things, like people smoke weed and drive, right? And it's not like
if you think you can fly and you're driving a vehicle, might not be a good idea.
Like,
right?
That's a ramp. I'm going to take it.
If you did a big dose of mushrooms and you never, like, cause some people are irresponsible. They don't get all the information, but then cars start moving in different lanes and shit. Oh, wow. You know, like this shit can be dangerous.
Maybe don't operate your phone either.
Yeah, that's what that's actually a great idea.
Right.
You'll start messaging a lot of people.
Start messaging like an ex-girlfriend or something. Laying it all on the line, leaving her a long-ass message.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, but it won't typically do something like that though, right? Like,
no, not
like
really.
alcohol will make you text somebody at like 2 a.m., but like I feel like mushrooms wouldn't do that.
A big dose of mushrooms, it'll make you introspective and it'll make you think about people in your life. Everyone has different things that it brings them to, but like
there's always the potential.
There's always the potential. And if you have things that you haven't resolved in your past with somebody, that might be the time that you're like, I need to text them my feelings. And that's not always the best idea. You might want to just think and do that after.
Yeah, do that some other time.
Yeah, that's why our homie told us, put your phone away. Just turn it off, right? And it was a good call.
Let's see if we can get to Thomas, huh?
Yeah, I sent him an email.
Okay,
so
cool.
Just waiting on him. So if you want to drop him a line.
Mr. Feegel.
Tell him we be here.
But it's interesting that your brother mentioned that you should do Iboga, because Iboga is, I mean, I've watched people and seen people's experiences. Iboga is hard core.
Yeah, and I think that again has to do with the dosing. So my brother's like, I think you could just take like way less, you know, and you don't have to, because for my brother it was like a multiple day journey. Like he was wiped out for a couple of days, and he just thinks that we have had another guest that came on the show and talked about it as well, but he didn't have this was like, this dude's from New Jersey. Like this guy had like his own hardship, his own issues that he's had in the past, and it really did help him. But this, what Thomas has is a clinic, which is kind of nice because then you get to see like how is this going to work in this particular setting.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just like in a hotel in a state where it's legal and you're kind of like trying to shotgun this thing, and it's a little bit of the roll of the dice, not saying that that's not effective too. Probably could work great. People got to do what they got to do to figure out their life and to figure out a way to move forward. So whatever you got to do. But I think in a clinical setting, being able to observe people and for Thomas to be able to see people over and over again have these results, I mean, that's going to be interesting to talk to him about it.
I wonder how it compares to something like DMT. Because I've heard that's pretty incredible too.
That's a toad drug, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That one, apparently it just takes you into a warp zone for 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, then you're out. But that warp zone is wild.
Supposedly it somehow makes you cool with like dying and stuff. What's that? That sounds so strange.
Yeah. We have only dipped our toes into this, so it should be interesting.
Did you roll this morning, Andrew?
No, I didn't. My body's feeling it. So I have been going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This week I went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so today I'm like, it just wasn't there. So I'm trying to recoup so that way I can go tomorrow.
But you feel okay about missing because you know that you're going to be consistent with it and that this is something you want to do for a long time, right?
Absolutely. So like I just said, I want to be extremely consistent with Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I get some extra days in there, cool. But as I quickly learned this week, it's like if I get the extra days in, then that's potentially like going to make me miss another day. And I'd rather miss like the Tuesday, Thursdays, because we don't have class those days. Those are just open mats, which they're extremely beneficial. Like
open mats are Tuesday, Thursday?
Every day, bro.
You feel good and you go 5 days in a row and then you're out for 3 weeks.
Exactly. And it's like the way it's actually my like upper back and neck, the way they feel right now. I'm just like, even just getting down to the floor, like to kind of roll around, I'm just like,
you got to think about how new it all is to you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's beyond new.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different. Like you probably, what's your experience with any sort of grappling?
This is 100% of it. Like I have never done any of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's crazy. It's not like running. Like at least with a run, you're like, well, yeah, I used to run, or I had to run for football, or I had to run for, I did wrestling practice or whatever. Like that makes some sense. That,
it's a natural human thing to do.
It very, very much is. But then to like get on a mat and have somebody else's weight, and you got to manage somebody else's skill and their strength and their power, and you're like being kind of driven into the ground, then then even if you're on top, even when you have advantages, there's shit that kind of hurts. Like if you're new, like if you're newer to jiu-jitsu, somebody who's been doing it for a while won't notice any of these things. But when you're newer, even just when you're on top of somebody, there's pressure on your knees that we don't normally crawl around the ground a lot, And so for somebody that's new, just that alone, and then them getting on their elbows and trying to get different pressure and trying to move around, it all is fucking new. And different things are flexing and stretching and rotating. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Jason Kalipa mentioned like the awkwardness of being so close to somebody else. And I guess when he said that, I didn't think much to it. But when I started, that was weird, because like, the only other situations that you are that close or somebody's on top of you is you're fucking. like just real talk. Like even
it's intimacy. Yeah.
And it's just when you said that, when you were just talking, I was just like, wait up, that's true. Like usually not this close to somebody else ever.
No.
And I just trying to think of like when else would you move anything remotely close to that? Like I can't think of a mimicker. I can't think of a sport where like, oh yeah, basketball is kind of the same,
There's tackle football. Like you're having to tackle somebody, but it's like instances, bursts of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because like, so it would be the equivalent of like you tackle somebody, but then you try to figure out how to get your foot up by like where their shoulder pads are, which would be really weird.
Yeah.
Guy would be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I was thinking like, when you're boxing someone out, like trying to get a rebound, like you literally are like fucking putting your ass like in their crotch area, right? Like you're trying to like back them up, but the other person's he's not reaching over and like getting his hooks in and shit, like that'd be like Dennis Rodman back in the day, and you'd be like terrified because like, oh shit.
Dennis Rodman would have been a hell of a jiu-jitsu
He
guy.
could probably do it right now and fuck everybody up.
Absolutely.
That'd actually be awesome.
His hand size, his length. It's crazy.
That length.
Yeah. We look dark.
That screen's a little dark over there.
Hey! Looking handsome, as always.
All of us.
Ooh.
There we go.
Wow.
Look at that background.
Hey.
There we go.
We got you.
guys hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you perfectly.
My eyes are so bad I can barely see anything. All right. Wow. Great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You said you sometimes listen to the show on when you're working out, when you're doing some runs and stuff like that.
I do. I've gone from working out, listening to business strategy stuff to like stuff that would really be meaningful. While I'm on the treadmill of life,
right,
running, I want to listen to things that get me off the treadmill of life. So I found myself one day watching CNN, listening to business strategy and running on a treadmill. And I just went, what the fuck is going on? I'm literally on a treadmill filled with fear.
So many things going on at one time.
Then you reached out and I started listening to your stuff and love it. Yeah, I love it.
That's great. Can you give us some details on the business that you have, the treatment center that you have, and just how you got into some of that?
Sure. So I'm the CEO of a company called Beond. It's spelled Beond. Beond operates a platform for psychedelic-assisted treatment for chemical dependency, depression, anxiety, and trauma. And we operate facilities in Mexico because Ibogaine is like cannabis is a federally Scheduled I substance in the United States. So we can't operate legally in the United States to provide this medication. It's a residential facility. People come, they stay with us. They're treated by licensed, credentialed physicians, ICU certified nurses, psychologists, nutritionists, a bunch of other very dedicated professionals. But the key innovation is the use of Ibogaine for the compounding of the other psychotherapeutic benefits that are derived throughout the process. And the way I got into it, I'm a recovered drug addict and alcoholic. So I spent a lot of time denying that and learning about that through practice, wrecking a lot of relationships and really making my life incredibly difficult, despite success in certain other areas. But I got off that stuff and began to live differently in a more conventional way. Went to 12-step programs, worked through a process of what I call awakening, where I had something better than substances. But someone in my life was a opioid addict. They were prescribed prescription medication called Vicodin for a dental procedure in their late teens. And it hit them the way other substances hit me, which was, it wasn't just about getting rid of the pain. They loved it. They couldn't get off it. They eventually couldn't get enough of it legally, and they turned to intravenous IV use of heroin to have the same effect. Then went to upwards of 9 different conventional drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers in the United States, spent nearly $1 million in copays. And somewhere after they did what they were told and followed the program appropriately, they would relapse. And a friend of theirs who was also a using buddy had discovered Ibogaine in Mexico and said, "You got to try this." Well, the person in my life did. They went to Mexico. They went to the place. And in about 12 hours of this intense psychedelic experience, they had no withdrawals, no cravings at all. And they ended up free of that habit, free of that behavior. However, the place itself was horrible. No medical infrastructure, no preparation, no nurses, no doctors, no therapists. And they literally escaped from this place after the treatment. And at one point in my life, I made a promise to them. If I ever could, I would try to build the place they should have gone, that would have the right infrastructure, the right delivery model, the right philosophy and approach, because it worked. I saw it work. I know it to have worked. And I really believe that people deserve, especially when they're most vulnerable, when they want to change, the type of support they need to take full advantage of that. So in 2020, I started researching what would need to be true for that place to exist from a legal perspective, from a medical perspective, from a psychological perspective, and of course, from a hospitality perspective. What would it need to feel like for me to be willing to send someone I love? And in 2022, we opened in early 2022.
So you're going to talk to us about a lot of different, and it's cool you called them medications, actually. That was something that I noticed. But when it comes to Iboga, you just mentioned that it's something that compounds other treatments. What do you mean by that exactly? And also, I mean, if you could explain to us how Iboga functions, because we've heard a bit about it, but you definitely know way more.
Well, I'm still learning, but yes, I probably know a little bit more, having seen hundreds of people do it and working with people that have treated thousands of people who have done it. So the first part of your question is it compounds. What is it compounding? So all all rehab, all sort of practices, whether it's conventional or unconventional, the process of getting somebody off something is pretty similar, right? There's some similar themes. One, you have to stop doing it. We have to help you do that. And then the other is we have to help you stay stopped. And so that's the hard part. The part of getting you off can be facilitated, and it oftentimes is. But in a conventional model, the reason that it is, I think that industry in the United States in particular, which is about $35 to $45 billion a year in revenue, built on the back of 2.5 million people who will go and try to get off something, some substance that's no longer working for them. The success rates are absolutely abysmal. Of the people who go, about 50% of them don't stay. They don't finish at all. And of those that stay, less than 10% report satisfactory results, meaning success. They feel clean or sober long enough or for them to be satisfied. So with those statistics, to my mind, I thought, well, what do they do that does work and what do they do that doesn't work? And where might we be able to be superior in efficacy? So the intervention part of stopping the use of a substance is pretty straightforward. There are ways to make it more comfortable.
Yes.
For example, prescription medications that essentially stabilize an individual so that they're not in withdrawals while you're trying to achieve the second part, which is helping them learn how to stay stopped or prevent relapse, as it's known. What's unique about Ibogaine in that type of delivery model is, number one, Ibogaine is known to target 3 specific areas of the brain. One is the serotonin system. So this obviously contributes to the way people feel. This is the reason we've got a massive SSRI industry. We're regulating serotonin so that people feel up, they feel more level, they have less peaks and valleys in their mood. But for a lot of people, SSRIs, while they're great inventions, have huge side effects: sexual dysfunction, weight gain, other things that are adverse to them. And another, say, third of the people that take them report no effect at all. So we're talking about, in my opinion, a technology that leaves a lot to be desired, a lot to be innovated upon. What Ibogaine does uniquely is it targets the serotonin system and it totally resets that so that it is functioning closer to normal or normally naturally. Ibogaine also targets something called the kappa opioid receptor in the brain, which is the part of the brain that is really craving and satisfied by opioids and other substances.
Okay.
So it completely resets that. The third is really the most interesting to me, is the glial-derived neurotrophic factor, which is the part of the brain that is crucial to neurotransmission and the regulation of that neurotransmission. And we know that when these neurotransmitters experience a regular kind of pattern of stimulus, they change. They essentially become damaged. And when they become damaged, they don't function very well at all. And so the need for dopamine is still there. It's a normal feeling. When it's overstimulated, as we know from the work of Anna Lemke and others, Dopamine Nation, it's a wonderful book. We know that there's certain substances that really spike it thousands and thousands of times beyond normal. So now you have a damaged neuron, you have someone with an experience of huge spikes in dopamine. So if you were to just take away the substance without helping to repair that neuron, they're going to have this feeling of craving. And that is one of the reasons why people relapse. So Ibogaine uniquely targets all three of those areas. So therefore we feel less depressed. We have less or no cravings, no withdrawals from the kappa opioid receptor reset. And finally, we've got kind of a miracle grow for the brain, up regulating this GDNF protein that causes people to feel not only lack of craving, but a desire to change, which is remarkable. This is why the combination of the innovation of this particular psychedelic medicine with psychotherapeutic intervention. So we do this, a lot of similar types of engagement in the delivery model, one-on-one therapy, group therapy, a lot of adjunct therapy to really understand what is behind this behavior in the first place. But the difference is there's no desire on the part of the participant to re-engage in that behavior. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
What is Ibogaine? Like, where does it come from? And also maybe like, why has it been something that's a little swept under the rug?
So this is actually incredibly interesting to me. It's one of the reasons why I started what I'm doing with the idea of what would need to be true for it to exist. So first, Ibogaine is a hydrochloride. It's a very purified, refined, tested pharmaceutical version of a substance that comes from an Iboga plant, a root bark. So it's sort of, we take we don't, but a laboratory takes the root bark. It's treated in such a way, and then it's refined into a hyper concentrated, purified version of it.
I'm sorry. When you said root bark, we cut off for a second, and I know that what you said there was kind of important. So root bark, and then.
Sure. So Iboga comes from a plant, the root bark, the bark of the root of this shrub that comes from West Africa in a country called Gabon, is harvested, it's dried, it's refined outside of a laboratory. That material has psychoactive properties and is used traditionally, ceremonially in the Bwiti tribe for various reasons, which are fascinating in and of themselves. They use it at times of significant transition in life. They give it as a ceremony, as a community, to help people move from one age and stage of life to another, and for other reasons. What we use is Ibogaine, and Ibogaine is a highly purified, refined pharmaceutical version of that can be tested for purity, and therefore we have more accurate dosage data. So we know exactly what we're giving someone, and we know exactly what's in it and how much of it is available to them. So that's the substance that's used to cause this. A lot about that too, the experience itself. It's known to be the most intense psychedelic substance. So among the spectrum of psychedelic substances, frequently referring to like psilocybin or MDMA or LSD or something like that, there's a spectrum of their intensity, and Ibogaine is thought to be kind of the most intense, and it also has the longest duration of the experience itself. So we're talking about 12 hours or more, rather than 2 or 4 hours, and the depth, so the intensity of the experience. And we think there are specific benefits that result from those properties. The reason there's sort of, I forgot the word you used, Mark, but the reason there's kind of I would say dark side of this is because there's a lot of fear. And fear generally causes people to hide, causes them to not be transparent about what they're doing, not really admit to where they could get better, and to miss opportunities, I think, to improve and deliver to themselves and to others a better experience, a better life experience. So Ibogaine was discovered accidentally by Howard Lotsoff, who was a heroin addict, but was really he had an incredible trip, as I just described. So did many people in that time period. They were, and he noticed he had no withdrawal symptoms, and he began to be extremely dedicated to really understanding how could it be utilized for that specific reason, because he himself experienced, and he knew many people who no longer wanted to use an opioid or an opiate, but they couldn't stop. They're no longer getting high or enjoying anything at all about it. They just can't stop. And now we have an epidemic of that in the US and around the world.
Do you think
so? That fear caused people who learned about it to administer it, but not in a way that was fully transparent or optimized for maximum efficacy. They didn't talk about it. They were sketchy in terms of how they evaluated people. They were not clear on what their delivery methods and models and protocols were, how they were keeping people safe or ensuring the maximum benefit. And so there were these small kind of facilities, if you'll call them, largely people's houses, where it was being used in this way. And it was actually helping people, for sure. But I thought, well, if we're really going to achieve a level of success that would be even remotely analogous with the need, then we're going to have to be as transparent as possible. We're going to have to really document everything, write the world's best safety protocols, delivery model. We're going to have the best talent, and we're going to have to have people in on the team that are not used to hiding. They're used to really doing research and sharing what they do. And so we just went into it with that intention. I mean, again, to be clear, 300 people will overdose and die today in the United States. 1 out of every 5, or 20% of everyone you see today has an addiction to a substance or a behavior. It touches every family, everyone that we know. It doesn't discriminate, apparently, in any regard. We see it on the paper. And in November of 2021, I saw an article that quoted a press release from the CDC that said 100,000 people had overdosed and died for the first time in the US history. And I thought, here I am benefiting from being off substances entirely. And I'm thinking about this, what then was a project. How can I not do this? How can I not try to do this at scale? Not to mention all the other people that benefit from this, the people with traumatic brain injury, depression, anxiety, who are veterans, who are first responders, their families, et cetera. We have a suicide epidemic as well. So we're getting up there in terms of the number of people per day who have catastrophic, irreparable impact in their lives for generations because this access to the substance hasn't been made available.
You see so many people nowadays kind of messing around with psychedelics, microdosing, and I guess doing a little bit of their own experimentation. What are some of your thoughts on that? And is that something that you could even do with Iboga, or is it too powerful of a substance to really kind of toy with in that way?
Well, I encourage experimentation. I think that consciousness expansion and really experiencing a sense of life or life experience or a human connection to something more than what we can perceive with our eyes and ears is not only a benefit to deepening, enriching the life experience we have, but I think it has profoundly beneficial effects in how we connect with ourselves, with the natural environment around us, and of course, oftentimes, most importantly, other people. So I definitely think people should explore, and many of us did explore kind of what else might there be in our mind, in our memory, in our perception, and in our experience of life beyond just this bag of bones. Well, not in your case, but this body. No matter how hard we try to perfect it and improve it and make it high performance, it's still kind of the mind is the gateway to a lot of our experience, if not all of our experience that matters. And so I think people have experimented, they've tuned in, they've checked out, they've turned on, whatever the phrase is, and they've gotten a lot more. But of course, it has to be done with understanding what is safe. Iboga and Ibogaine happens to be extraordinarily powerful on the spectrum of substances that can cause that kind of consciousness expansion. And it does it in a very unique way with a unique set of characteristics, which I think are important. But it also, like any substance, 65,000 people will go under general anesthetic today in the United States. They'll be completely unconscious. And they consider that to be reasonably safe because the right training, the right talent, the right technology, the right risk mitigation strategy has been used to try to increase the likelihood that they'll be successful. That's exactly what we do. So no one would take a general anesthetic on their own. There's many things that people shouldn't do with a friend, no matter how much that friend claims to have benefited from it. So I think Ibogaine uniquely is extremely powerful and can have side effects. And I think to mitigate the adverse consequences of those side effects, of course, it should be done in a way that is ensuring the maximum level of safety. But the general idea of experimenting, I'm all for, whether it's breathwork, whether it's ultra long distance running or, weightlifting, powerlifting, whatever. I think experimentation and the effects on our mind and our body are great.
Kind of following on that, and we can definitely get to the side effects soon, but before you came on, we were talking about how apparently Mark mentioned that there is a study with the use of psilocybin, and it was on the Today Show where 50% of the applicants actually came out with success, right? Which is pretty shockingly high number. And then we got to the idea of people have conspiracy theories about psilocybin and some of these other drugs where it doesn't seem that somebody getting off of medication and not needing it perpetually for the rest of their life is profitable. So something like Iboga and what you're doing, do you find that because what you guys are doing is such a successful thing that because of that, there's a lack of profit, and because of the lack of profit, it's going to be very difficult for it to become widespread?
Well, no, I don't
Okay,
think
good.
that.
That's good.
But let me tell you why. Because I think that I believe that all healing is growth. That anytime we heal, we're growing something, we're repairing, and then ultimately maybe building something better or new.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the insights that come from the experience that needed to be repaired, whether it was a cut finger, oh, don't do that, or whether it's a psychological trauma or a traumatic experience of living with depression or severe anxiety. And by the way, we should talk about the whole life optimization side eventually, because it sounds very dark, but we're focusing on where the most acute need is appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
So if one was to design a long-term, highly effective business model, one would want to be in the treatment business, because you don't really want healing. You talk about improvement, you talk about feeling better, but if there's a renewable kind of relationship with either the therapist, or the substance, of course, that is conventionally perceived as a better business model, more profit. I think we're past that. Human consciousness and society is either past that or coming to be past that. There are, I know of, all kinds of innovative business models that are inconceivable when you look at them compared to the conventional business model. Mm-hmm. Look at fitness and gym ownership and management. Who in their right mind would offer a free gym, right? It just makes no sense. And yet we know that there are ways to monetize the service and the benefits that people derive from that, that is not kind of using the most rudimentary conventional methodology. And I think that's true in healing as well. I believe that we currently focus on a key stage of this transformation, which is healing, which is detox and preparation for life after detox. So compounding that effect, scaling that experience so that it has longevity and is enduring. Where we don't monetize yet at all is on the preparation or the work that has to be done or can be facilitated to optimize the experience before you begin. We could do that. We don't monetize on the education, the parts where we're helping people with decision-making support yet. We don't monetize on the aftercare, the long-term integration yet, where we would say, hey, you just got off a substance that has been causing you to crater your life and wreck everything in your relationship, and you don't want that. We can't just throw you right back into that lifestyle, that apartment, without therapy, without occupational, without psychotherapy, without building a strong foundation so you can thrive. We don't monetize that at all. Mm-hmm. I also think that long-term, there's a lot of motivational programming that could be developed to cause people to continually improve their sense of relationship with the change that's happened. So how do you wake up? How do you feel? How do you meditate? How do you eat? How do you relate? Mm-hmm. How do you have Thanksgiving dinner? All that stuff that you're going to encounter, which is a stressor in life for many people. How do you do that, taking full advantage of the changes you've already invested in and made? We don't do that, but we don't charge for it, obviously, either. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, for one, the direct provision of services that help people heal and stay healed. And if healing is growth, which I believe it is, growth is cumulative. And so as you grow, you need more growth, or you may want more growth. And so I think there's kind of a network effect of if you get better, but you don't get healed, you continually are on this treadmill or this hamster wheel of just keep coming back and we'll give you a pill and we'll charge you several $100s for an hour or whatever. But keep coming back. I think I see progress. We're not in the progress business as a result of what we're doing. We're in the progress business of what you're doing.
You know,
Does that help?
That does help. And one thing I'm curious about is we've had different people where we talked about addiction on the podcast, and like I've never been addicted to opioids or drugs necessarily, but from 11 to 24 for 13 years I was addicted to pornography, and it was something that I'm 30 now, so I've been 6 years removed, but I remember at the time, like all the times that I would use it was because I need pleasure, I need dopamine. It was this strong drive for dopamine. Now, I also started jiu-jitsu around that age, and I didn't realize it. For a long time, I think for 6 years of that time, since I was 18 or 19, I was trying to quit. And me and my friend, a close friend of mine, Brian, we would have tactics. We would share each other's phone passwords, where we'd try to do these things to mitigate our use. And it was beneficial. But for me, the time that I started jiu-jitsu, this practice that just drove me into this physical side of things, slowly it became much easier not to have that drive. So I replaced the drive with pornography with a physical outlet of jiu-jitsu. And that's something that I do super consistently. And I don't feel any drive back, but it was something that I didn't intend it to replace, but it did replace the habit. So now it makes me curious for people that come into your clinic that they have these different, literally heroin, different types of addictions, which we can get into what you guys deal with. Huh?
Fentanyl, 1,000 times more powerful.
Right? How do you guys handle the replacement approach? And is it because if Iboga works on that glial-derived neurotropic factor thing, that is the pattern, I guess, recognition, right? How do you guys help people replace old patterns with something positive, if that's something you deal with?
Absolutely have to. Of course we do, and it won't work. Otherwise, it's a drive-through detox, right? And again, if you want to talk about, more cynical aspects of what might happen with, conventionally commercialized type use of a substance, it would be a drive-through kind of, not literally, but a frequently recurring detox, rehab safely. We'll clean you up, get you back out there, come on back when you're ready. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in that. I think that it does a great disservice to people, and we have examples of that. We have examples of that in the pharmaceutical industry. So I love your story about what I would call a maladaptive coping. You're treating something with pornography. Mm-hmm. Whether you know it or you don't, you're treating something, and you need to get high. So needing to get high shouldn't be something that causes harm, right? Everybody needs to get high. Everybody needs to feel many of the aspects of the experience that are often associated with illicit drug use or compulsive behaviors. There's many of them that are really great. Like, you should be allowed to have certain secrets. You should be able to have certain adventures. You should be able to have time to yourself when you feel like nothing is wrong and life is great and you're all good, But if having those types of, or maybe even do that with somebody else. Yeah. I'm all on my own, but I'm with you too. Like, whatever. If you have to take the risk of harming yourself or someone else, or actually harming yourself or someone else to do that, I would say you're using the wrong medication at the wrong dose at the wrong frequency. Nothing wrong with the need, though. The need is awesome. So you replace that with something that is known to be far less harmful and satisfying a need, and it worked. Now, you still are aware that this maladaptive behavior is out there. You just, for some reason, it doesn't appeal to you anymore.
Yeah.
Partly because you don't have the acute need, and partly because you've probably matured and, you see it differently as well. You see yourself differently, most importantly. So I think that having this replacement is a fundamental requirement, and GDNF causes people to be open and willing and even excited about participating. So now it's not like, think about this idea. You take away my drug, my most pleasurable experience. And you find if I don't take it, one might have severe withdrawals. I get sick, I shit my pants, I'm sweating, I'm a nasty, awful person. No one wants to be around me. I don't want to be around anyone else. Okay, let's say we could take that piece of the puzzle off the table, but we still didn't replace it. What's the fucking reward? Like, thanks a lot. So now the one thing that worked for me that made me feel great and eventually I needed to feel normal, you took away, but I don't have anything better. Like, it could be any type of jiu-jitsu, metaphorically or analogously. So we have to intervene and quickly focus on all the issue areas: family, self-esteem, money, career, self-image, sex, all the parts of our lives that first we see as kind of adversely impacted of this behavior. But the clue is those are the things that are important, right? Those are the relationships, the sense of self-love and self-esteem, worthiness, a need of people that might use something like pornography might be to feel a human connection. They're just using the wrong way to do it. So if you take away the pornography, they still have the profound need for human connection. We need to help them figure out how to get into a way of being first, change their thought system, right? What are your thoughts about human connection, your worthiness, your ability, the experience of it? And then the other is your belief system. If you think that you're going to fail and you're unworthy of connecting with people, going out and meeting a friend or picking up someone or, having a exciting, adventurous, satisfactory human connection is going to be extremely stressful and difficult. So we don't give dating coaching services. What we try to change is your relationship to the core of your sense of being, but that can't even begin without intervening, getting people off the substances and introducing this miracle grow for the brain and using the environment. So one-on-one therapy, group therapy, a lot of writing, a lot of art, a lot of music, a lot of sound, a lot of fitness, high intensity interval training. All this stuff is causing people to do more than just sit in a room and go, well, wow, I feel like I'm not on heroin anymore. I'm not on meth. I'm not taking these drugs, but I miss them. You can't miss them. You can mourn them. This is fascinating. You can mourn them, but you can't miss them because it's sort of like that part of your identity has to die. And if it's dead, but still living on the block, in the bad neighborhood or wherever, or on the internet, on the dark web, you're eventually going to go see that side of yourself. So we need it to actually be dead, and we can mourn it. We can say goodbye forever. We don't have to forget it. Just like we don't forget somebody when they die. We want to learn from it. We want to grow. I said that all healing is growth. So we want to put it to work.
What's the experience like, and what do people report that are getting treated with Ibogaine? What are the sensations? What are the feelings? What are the things you've experienced?
Well, I did Ibogaine at Beond, I think I have to generalize first, and then I can talk about some details. So first of all, it's a very long process. It's known to be, it starts early in the morning and it lasts into the night. So it might be 12 or more hours.
Wow.
in that process, of course, you're basically in like a sexy ICU, if you can imagine that. Same technology, but it's warmer, it's darker, same staff, but they've all done Ibogaine too, which I love. We offer Ibogaine to all the team members, partially for empathy and partially because they have challenges too that they want to overcome. Not so much chemical dependency, but trauma, childhood trauma, depression, anxiety. So you're around people that know what the fuck they're doing. They have the skills. They know how to work the tools. We use the same tools as you would find in any class 1 medical facility in a, urban environment in the US. But, so you're wearing headphones, noise canceling headphones. You're listening to a custom playlist of music, but it's not like the music you probably listen to on your phone or in Spotify. Though the playlist is available on Spotify. If you look at Beond, we give away the playlist so you can actually check it out.
Cool.
So you're listening to this music, you have an eye mask on, and the beginning of it is you feel this kind of tingly feeling and a warmth in your body, and you start to hear a buzzing in your ears, though your ears are covered. You're listening to music. And then it begins. And for about 6 hours, we'll generalize, we'll say about half of the experience, what's reported and what I experienced was a very rapid presentation of visual imagery, almost cinematic imagery, in various hues or colors, some black and white, some bright. For me, it was like I was traveling out into space. It looked like that. I wasn't imagining it. It looked like I was on the dash of a oblong spaceship flying into space at hyper speed. But I knew, and I wondered, how do I know this, that my eyes were covered. It was very clear visually. It was not something unrecognizable. It was something I'd never seen before, but it wasn't like a melting, kaleidoscopic thing that was totally unmoored from my awareness. It was like I'm going out into space. And then I realized that each of the little lights that I could see out in what appeared like a night sky, I could go to with my mind. I could cause my little metaphorical visual spaceship to go to it. And when I got there, it was a memory.
We're going to Mexico.
Come on down. It was a memory. It was a memory or a thought about a memory that I had had in the past. Now, so that's like a general overview. Then each of those little kind of blinkers, as I would label them, for lack of a better word, out in the night sky, they meant something to me. They were like my dad, or something I didn't understand, like my 9th grade music teacher. Like, I don't know, why would I see that? But I had that experience, and all of them, thousands of them, were related to my life experience as far back as I could reasonably remember. And some people report going further back. So imagine that your brain is sort of able to remember every thought you've ever had, and certainly every experience you ever had. And some of them are unpleasant and some of them are pleasant, but we're not attached to, we don't re-experience them in the way that they occurred. I had the experience of seeing them as something that mattered, as something that's part of my life experience, not unmoored from reality at all. Then there's the second half, which is introspection. What does it all mean? Like the experience of beginning to connect the dots, but between those thoughts, memories, thoughts about memories, memories of thoughts, images, little movies that are being played to me, as I described it in my own trip report, as a black and white heavy metal music video of my life. But it wasn't like bad or scary. There was certainly trauma that I needed to look at. They say Ibogaine shows you what you need to see, not what you want to see. The second half is the process of introspection, of reflection, of beginning to learn and grow and make sense of it to some degree without this intention, this egoic intention of like, I have to master it. It doesn't feel like that at all. It's more like, what does all that mean? And this feeling of like, how can I make sense of this experience called my life? And also this experience of revisiting this in a very thoughtful, rational, introspective way. Not one time did I ever feel like I was not present. I could easily call myself back into the current sense of reality simply by taking the eye mask off. And my vision was all kind of blurry, and I was what they call ataxic. I couldn't walk very well, but I could walk. I could go to the bathroom. The nurses helped me. That's what they do. They want to keep us safe. But after the second 6 or 8 hours, I was totally wiped out, just totally exhausted, physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally wiped out. But I was also very clear about what had just happened. And then finally, because it's psychedelic, it shifts time. So when I took the eye mask off, I asked the nurse, how long have I been in here? And she said, we just finished dinner. So it had been approximately 8 hours. And for me, it felt like about, 45 minutes.
Whoa.
And yeah, and so that's the general picture. And that's generally the report for most people. Super intense visuals about their life experience that matter. And some of them can be very difficult, of course. Things we did, things that were done to us that are lingering or in the deepest, darkest, or maybe not so dark recesses of our mind. And then the other half of, what does it all mean? That's generally the Ibogaine experience.
What is this story? Is it like Scrooged? Like it's like the ghost of Christmas past. You get to see how you really were, I guess. What do you think makes it undeniable? Like, we wake up from dreams and we have all kinds of different weird dreams, and it's easy just to kind of shove those off and just be like, oh, that was weird. That was really crazy. I don't know why I dreamt that. And you just kind of blow it off. What makes this more real? What makes it something that I know you have people that are coming to treatment, so they want to get better. I understand that side of it, but what do you think or feel that makes it something that you're like, you know what, I better understand this because this will really help me moving forward?
Yeah, that's really interesting because it is very dreamlike. That's a great reference. It feels like a dream, but imagine you could have a dream tonight. And you ever have lucid dreaming where you're in a dream and you're kind of like, this is terrifying. And then you're like, wait, I'm having a dream. This plane isn't going to crash. I was taught this as a kid because I had these recurring nightmares of crashing planes or falling. And I was taught to like, hey, just remember you're in a dream. And then you can begin to sort of play a little bit. You can at least not be terrified. It's not a nightmare. And so there's some aspect of that, which is awareness and rationality in the experience. So again, while you can become distracted and be like, I want to go in my spaceship out to the next dimension, that's a choice. I don't feel like I'm being pulled into the other dimension and I'm taken hostage. I wouldn't say control, but I can be aware that it is something's happening, and I'm not totally unmoored from my own sense of all reality, and I didn't have any fear that I would never come back. That would be terrifying. The other piece of your question, which is interesting, is why does it result, or oftentimes result in that feeling, what I would call a feeling of healing, right? And that's the learning piece, because your dream is so weird. that, your teeth can fall out and you can be on, running through a public place naked or whatever. Like, it's provoking a subconscious, something that needs to be settled or
Put forward,
or addressed. This is an experience remotely similar insofar as afterwards, that it needs to be addressed through your change, through your choice to change your life. When I wake up having a dream when my teeth fell out, I don't go get artificial teeth. What I do is I think, wow, I think that might be telling me something about how I perceive the way I look. And I should look at that maybe in a different way. In meditation, I should think a little bit more about, what does that dream, what is it telling me about me? But it doesn't make me want to change my life. That's like a premonition. If someone has a dream about a lottery number and they run out by a ticket, that's a premonition or something. This is much more about the feeling. Remember, the GDNF, that protein has not only prepares the brain by causing that regeneration, that repair, that growth, but it also has a sense of intense motivation. Now, obviously, intense for some people might be different from other people, but it's like, I don't want to use. I don't miss it. I don't crave it. And I'm actually kind of more aware of the fact that I don't want it, meaning at a deeper level. It's not like I'm trying to make something bad go away only. I'm trying to optimize for who could I be without that need, without that craving, and also without that recurring experience, what my relationships look like, and so on. So this is where that intervention, that growth, that teaching, that learning, that desire to grow and change is truly unique from any other rehabilitative intervention that we know of. And because have you ever meet anybody who went to rehab?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did they come out like wanting to tell you all about it and how great it was?
Absolutely
and
not.
Like brag to their friends, like, I went to rehab. That was awesome.
Nope.
I'm now gonna change my whole life and I'm so excited. I can't wait to tell you all about it. No, it's kind of shameful.
They usually leave early too. Like they have a designated, they usually leave early. They have a designated amount of time that they wanted to stay. They usually leave early. A lot of things are unresolved. They get kind of dumped back out into the quote unquote real world and just are almost more lost than before because they had a coping mechanism and now the coping mechanism isn't there, or it's not supposed to be there, and you're bad if you utilize that coping mechanism. So it's hard for, I think, a lot of people to figure out a way to move forward.
Power Project family, how's it going? So no matter what diet you're on or no matter what supplements you take, it's necessary as you get older to know what's going on under the hood. That's why I've partnered with Marek Health. They're the premium telehealth clinic owned by Derek from More Plates, More Dates. And we have a panel that will allow you to get all of your labs done and checked in a super easy fashion. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yeah, you guys got to head over to marekhealth.com/power project. That's MAREK health.com/power project. And at checkout, enter promo code Power Project to save $101 off of this comprehensive panel. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Do you feel that Ibogaine treatment in what you're doing, do you feel like maybe for yourself and maybe in the experience of some others that you've heard report, do you think it maybe just shows you that continuing with alcohol or continuing with anything that you are addicted to or hooked on, even though it's powerfully wired into the body, that it still is a choice?
Great question. Because here I am, almost 20 years without any substance, and I still have parts of me that think some days, God, it would just be great to just go shut all this off. Or, I used to have experiences where I was like, oh, whatever it was, it would be better if I was using, some substance. That didn't work out so well. But I do think that some of us respond differently to the introduction of substances. Our brain, our bodies work differently. I have a son I have 4 sons, but one of them is addicted to surfing, but he's allergic to peanuts. And, and he's always known he was allergic to peanuts since one fateful Halloween. Oh. And so he's always grown up feeling like, I'm allergic to peanuts. I'm not going to eat peanuts. We go to a Thai restaurant. He's like, is there peanuts? Is there peanut sauce? I don't eat peanuts. And his life isn't like ruined because he doesn't eat peanuts. He just knows he doesn't eat peanuts. I'm allergic to penicillin, allegedly. I've never had it since I was 2, but every time I go to the doctor, they say, what are you allergic to? And I say, penicillin. I don't usually, unless I'm trying to be provocative, say alcohol and drugs. But that's what I truly believe. My brain, my body reacts differently to a lot of different types of experiences, which I think creates an appetite for relief that is different from other people. And then also when I have what used to be the wrong medicine at the wrong dose, at the wrong frequency, I had it and I was like, holy crap. Now I'm right. Now, like happy hour, I know what they mean by happy hour. Like it's really not just about getting together with friends. It's about turning on, right? And so that reaction, I think is different. And I think it is both environmental and biological, for sure, because my parents were the same way. They had less insight about the experience. They kept sort of, getting up early, being hungover, working their ass off and having relief, damaging things, damaging relationships, doing their best for sure. But it's tough to be going through life, with that kind of repetitive pattern of hangover or blackout or whatever. Doesn't mean they're not successful at certain things. They're not resilient, creative, passionate people. It just means they've got kind of I think of like a cartoon with a skillet banging me in the head. So that I think happens to me with a lot of substances. I think I react differently to sugar sometimes. I react differently to not eating certain times or overeating certain times. Like it's certainly shifting my mood. It is a mood altering experience that I can become dependent on very quickly. And a wonderful example is apps. Like my kids have to use a language app called Duolingo to learn Spanish. And I'm like, what's that? Oh, I work in Mexico at Beond. I want to learn Spanish. So I'm like, I'll try that. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool game. Like I can do this. 2 hours later, I'm like, shh, I'm still doing this. Then like 6 weeks later, I'm up at 2 a.m. in the bathroom alone doing Duolingo because I'm getting high. I want to beat that bitch in some other region that I will never meet who's about to prevent me from being on the emerald level. I'm like, no fucking way are you going to knock me out of the jade level or the emerald level. Like, fuck that. I'm platinum. And my kid said to me, like, they call me Papa, you've been on that for 6 hours. And I'm like, you're right. I'll delete it. So
but you say that in Spanish.
And I learned some Spanish. Yeah. It actually works. It's muy bien. Muy bueno. But here's the thing. So I think certain people react to certain types of brain chemistry changes that can be caused through an external input or an internal shift. They wake up depressed, they crash, they have peaks and valleys and all of that. But the choice, so now that I know, here's what I would say. Now that I know that I have that reaction to these substances, the choice to use them, I can make that for sure. But I'm ignoring all the evidence available to me. I'm basically saying, hey, I'm going to do something that I have allergic reaction to, and it's going to likely have consequences. And those consequences will eclipse responsible areas of my life. I don't just have a beer. And a lot of people don't,
Do you think that
the first time I think it's a choice for sure. People don't know.
Do you think that you'll have like a flood of people that just want to get ahead and entrepreneurs that are go-getters that want to come visit you and come experience Iboga to use as performance enhancement just in life? And do you think it works that way?
Yeah.
As like a nice reset button for anybody, regardless of addiction or not.
Yeah, look at our website, beond.us. We have a program called Reset. And it focuses on not addiction. It doesn't focus on healing depression, anxiety, or trauma. What it focuses on is shifting fundamentally your relationship with something. So the 4 categories that we focus on now, it's kind of in beta, is media and your relationship to digital devices. Like, come on, we know it's out of control. We all know. People
not for me, bro.
Okay. So again, like, people want to have a better relationship, a more meaningful, we'll call it healthier, more satisfying relationship with a bunch of different stuff. Sometimes that stuff is really causing them a great deal of stress, a great deal of disconnection. It can be very expensive, but it's not wrecking their life yet. And I really believe that that's a whole different population of participants for whom we can and we should be of service, whether it's your phone, not you, Mark, or food, not you, Mark, or, a relationship. Like, what if our relationship to ourselves need to be just fundamentally reset? Because I feel like I should feel joy. Things are great. I've gone to the therapy and it got me better. I did the medication, but it got me better, but I don't want to take it. I'm not wrecked, but like, I can't feel this sense of like worthiness or self-love or a connection to myself like I want to, like you read about. Or, it could be grieving, this sense of just a feeling of catastrophic impact of something we know is going to happen. We know there's going to be loss in life, but it hits us really hard and we don't know how to get out of that. We have a need to reset the relationship with something that's causing us now this feeling that we can't shake. It's messing other stuff up and we don't want. Yeah, I think that's a great, as long as they're medically qualified, as long as they're capable of doing it, I think that would be a great group. Now, beyond that, if we said, what about all the other people who are just like, I just want to go deeper into my experience of consciousness expansion. I just believe that maybe they did some mushrooms someday long in the past and they're like, it was great, but it didn't, I still think there's more. I still think there's more to my discovery, my learning, my growth, my relationship to my life experience. Absolutely. Why not? I think that's the type of executive or athlete or high performance individual I'd want to be in my team.
Andrew, you got anything right now?
Yeah, I do actually. I wanted to ask, with that amazing experience that you were just sharing with us about, like, flying in a spaceship and stuff, how stable are these experiences? And I ask this because I can have some really profound experiences by just doing breath work. They're not too far off from what you explained, but they're definitely not as intense. My consciousness or my I guess spiritual self is somewhere else, and then my physical form is kind of left behind. But what ends up happening is I'll become aware of the physical side, and I'll be like, am I even breathing right now? And then I'll check that, and then wham, I come right back. And then wherever I was spiritually, I am no longer there. I'm back into this like form here. So with Ibogaine, I'm curious, like when you do become, can you, I should say, become aware of your physical self, and then does that pull you back into where you were from, or is it more stable to where you can actually I'll say get more work done on that spiritual side?
Andrew, thanks for that question. I'm so glad to have the chance to talk about it. So I'm a huge meditator. I meditate twice a day. I've done it for decades. I have what I thought was like psychedelic experiences. I routinely leave my body, have a complete sense of being somewhere else, and I lose all awareness of awareness, right? So I'm not aware that I'm even unaware. And then I, through breath, will come back. Usually it's around a time, because I do it for about 20 minutes. I use Transcendental Meditation, TM, but I've done a lot of different modalities, modern Buddhism, Vipassana, others. They're all awesome, walking meditation, etc. But so I can lose my mind through meditation, and I can leave my body through meditation. But because it's a practice that I do every day or extremely frequently, there's a memory of it kind of coming to a conclusion that I'm used to. Let's call it muscle memory, so to speak, an experiential memory. And occasionally I've been in meditation where I thought I was hanging from the ceiling. Truly, when the awareness came back, I was like, wait, this is strange. I truly don't know where I am anymore. I think I'm still in my body, but I'm not sitting upright. And then a couple of times I've had the experience where when I was about to open my eyes, I felt like I had to change my mind's orientation to the front of my face, because I wasn't looking out of my face at all. I had to like reorient the perceivers, my eyes. So I get it for sure. When I was on Ibogaine at Beond, what I did was I had that sense of like, I remember it distinctly. It's like, I have no idea how long this has been going on, but I know when I came in here, I had hands. I'm sure of it. And now I can't even remember where they are. Like, where did I leave my arms and hands? And that for a moment was because I felt very safe, very medically safe, psychologically safe, emotionally safe, spiritually safe. I felt safe. And I thought, this is very odd. And all I did was try to close my finger, my thumb to my index finger. And they were right there. I was like, oh, there you are. I get it. You're right there. And then I was like, wait, but where are my feet? And so all I did was push my toes a little forward, and they touched the end of the bed. I was like, oh, there it is. And then I could relax and go back to, through the portal to the ninth dimension, or to do I like what you said, to do the work. Mm-hmm. I called it, I think it's more of like a consciousness laboratory. Like, why waste it? And it's not a playground. It can be, there's playful aspects of it for sure, but it's more like a laboratory where I get to go do work.
I was curious about this because our buddy Chris Bell has done Ibogaine before. And when Chris showed us a video of his Ibogaine experience, and currently in my mind, his experience seems so different from what you were talking about as far as your experience and the experiences that people have when they use Ibogaine. Because when I remember the video he showed me, like, he was in a hotel room. There was a point where he threw up. It looked really hardcore. Mm-hmm. And from what you explained, it is a deep experience, and it can be unpleasant if your mind takes you to certain things that you need to work through. I guess that aspect could be unpleasant, but it doesn't seem that it is. It doesn't seem as unpleasant as, I guess, my perception of Ibogaine was before. So my question is, like, you've probably had individuals that have come in with potentially maybe repressed memories, or they are dealing with an addiction to fentanyl or something else. But is it as hardcore as what we, I guess, were initially thinking it was?
So I haven't seen the video you're referring to, but I definitely discourage people from doing Ibogaine in hotel rooms. Like, we're already on a path that sounds like maybe. So we think about this as a whole continuum. So one is preparation, like set and setting, pretty common term, comes from Terence McKenna. Like the readiness of your mind and the place you're doing it is totally relevant. Like,
Yes.
and I've stayed in a lot of great hotel rooms, but they're not great enough for me to trip for 12 hours in, and potentially like become, face to face with whatever dark, difficult past memories I might have. So I would strongly suggest, or I would suspect that part of what's going on there is readiness. Like, have you been set up for success, however we want to call it? Now, success might not be the eliminating the possibility of barfing. Like, okay, so you barfed, but are you cared for? Do you feel cared for and supported through that difficult experience of, your stomach's upset and your equilibrium's off and you're throwing up?
Yeah.
But, who's there with you and who prepared you? What are you listening to? All that type of set and setting, I think, is a big part of how I would define success and readiness, and really what I call safety.
Okay.
But it's readiness. So that's one. You use the term hardcore. I use the term intense. I think that there's nothing about the intensity of Ibogaine when done in a way that prepares you for that success that is so hardcore or so intense that someone can't handle it.
Okay.
Who's relatively psychologically healthy. Now, if you had a propensity to certain psychiatric disorders, what we call disorders, or psychiatric problems, where that experience might cause some other reaction where you just run out of the room and you're unmoored. Now you've got a real problem because the person might be, they're not reacting to the Ibogaine per se, they're reacting to the experience in a way that is uncontrolled or uncontrollable. And now they're at risk to themselves and others. That I would hate to see again. So again, that's why we have a purpose design platform, facility, training, talent, experience to kind of make sure that we've done everything is not only reasonably possible, but everything known to be possible to ensure that you're going to be ready and you're qualified. But the intensity itself, I mean, come on, I think there's movies that are incredibly intense and disturbing. There's experiences that we know to be disturbing and painful, problematic, that we survive through, that you get through. I think with the right setting, preparation, and the absence of disqualifying conditions, it's hardcore and intense is okay.
I was also curious about this. Now, when, for example, I smoke weed every now and then, but I do something weird, and like before I smoke, like I make sure that I do have an intention for what I'm about to do. Like it's like I think, okay, I'm here hanging out with my girl. I want to make sure that I have good conversation with her. I try to have intent before I do anything, right? Now, my question is, because Mark was mentioning, with something like Ibogaine, some people may think, well, I don't have an addiction. I don't have a problem. Maybe I want to improve something. So I'm curious, like with the use of Ibogaine, how big of a difference does intent make? And I know there's so many different experiences, but does generally the medication take you to what you need, or can you have an intent for something and it can take you towards your intent?
Great. So a little bit of both, and we don't entirely know. So
Yeah, it's tough.
So first of all, like, we don't call it intent. We're trying to, in our pre-treatment phase, which is second of 5, we are focusing on what we call a personal psychedelic agenda, right? Like beyond intent. This is, where do we really want to go? What are we truly trying to elucidate and better understand, explore, etc. So it's like there's some real intention behind developing a deeply personal psychedelic agenda, for sure. But it's more than, I just want to be present. I just don't want to smoke too much weed and not connect with my girl. It's more like, I'm intentionally going deeper than that would be. And I want to, like, fish where the fish are, so to speak. I might end up mapping the entire ocean, but I'm going to start with, where do I think the types of fish that I want to fish for are? Relationships, traumatic experiences, worthiness, family. Maybe we feel just really unmotivated, chronically unmotivated, and the consequences. A lot of people that we get to work with, we have the privilege and honor of working with, but many we don't. They feel like they are a problem. Like, they really identify with they're a problem in their own life. And, like, where does that come from? Like, that's more than just setting an intention. That's some deep introspective work. So the really interesting part of your question is, does the medicine sort of guarantee that if we have an agenda, are we going to stick to it? And the answer is no, for sure not. And, the nice way of saying that is, well, the medicine shows you what you need to see, not what you want to see. And I think there's some truth to that, but it also probably shows you some stuff you don't even know you need to see, and you would never want to believe you needed to see. But you saw it. You sort of witnessed it, not seeing it like a photo, witnessed it. Bearing witness is deeper than looking at a photo. You were able to contemplate it. It had meaning. This is the difference, I think, the meaning behind the intention or the experience after the thing wears off.
What does this kind of treatment cost? Like, I'm sure there's different levels depending on how much care you get, how long you stay. What's kind of like the minimum dosage? Someone can go, like, someone just goes there for a week, and what kind of cost may they incur? Yeah.
So it's, the cost ranges from $7,500 for 10 days. So it's average 10 days. So we don't charge by the day. We charge by the treatment. So the average is about 10 days. And the reason for that makes a ton of sense. Like, you arrive, you need to get ready. So we do all our own labs, all our own blood work, all our own medical assessment, psychological assessment, largely to verify what we've already done remotely. So everyone's already filled out incredibly detailed health history, spoken with a certified psychedelic coach, probably spoken to our physicians and psychologists before they left their house. Then they come here, we want to verify everything, because we don't know what you did last night. And sometimes there might be things you didn't report that are important. Like, you didn't know that certain types of health conditions exist. So we want to make sure we are seeing what we want to see to ensure your highest level of safety. That takes a day or two. And then we talked about the psychedelic agenda. Like, most people don't show up with that pre-written, and they want to get oriented. They want to kind of go through a process of being prompted. Like, okay, help me understand how deep is deep and how wide is wide, and what's this going to mean? What could this mean, et cetera. So again, what they came up with, that what they arrived with thinking is beginning to evolve. And then the treatment itself, when they feel ready and they are ready, it's like on day 3, 4. There's no rush. Like to go fast and to go deep, it just feels to me like counterintuitive. We want to be safe. We want it to be lasting, healing, and change, right? So there's much more work that we could do before people come that might accelerate that front phase. But most people are not ready to do it. They're like working right up until the airplane. They're rushing to the airport. They fly down. Come on. So people that work with their own doctors and their own psychologists, we get a lot of referrals from doctors, a lot of referrals from psychiatrists and psychologists. And of course, they might have done some more work, but it still doesn't eliminate that phase. So that's 4 days. And then you do the Ibogaine. It takes all day, sometimes all day and all night. The next day is, you're wrung out. You're not doing much that next day. You're kind of like parked or in a puddle on the couch. And it can be very emotional. It can be very hard is the word I would use. Like it's not a recreational experience by any stretch of the imagination. So there's that day, that's day, say 5, roughly. Then you've got 3 days to do the introspection, the aftercare planning, the life visioning, the sort of insight, understanding, and turning that into like a plan of action. Like insights without action, they're just ideas. Like I should quit my job and become a poet or whatever. But yeah, I've got to go back to work as a litigator. So we'll put that on. That's not the goal. So it takes a few days to do that. And frankly, it's not like boot camp, right? So we're not like get out of bed. You owe us something for your own benefit. You owe us something, some workshop. We facilitate, and it's definitely structured and it's definitely designed to discover and reveal the things we need to use in the agenda setting, the treatment, and the aftercare and the aftercare planning, because you leave with a written document that is the kind of roadmap of the change that you wanted to see. I think that roadmap is worth $7,500 because it's pretty accurate and it's deep and it's meaningful. And you can, one of the things I like to tell people is, when they ask you, you get home and your loved one says, "So what's your plan?" You can literally hand it to them and go, "Here it is." And then you can retort with, "What's your plan?" But the range of prices, 7,500, 10 days, 9,000, still 10 days, and 11,500. And here's the trick. Because we can only do right now about 20 treatments a month, what I tried to figure out was, how do you be fair? How do you incentivize people to pay, but pay the lowest amount? And then have capacity for people that aren't ready to make a decision. So the first 10 people that commit in any given month pay the lowest price. And then the next 5 pay the medium price, 9,000. And then when all those 15 are sold for that month, there's 5 left over for people who really they don't plan. They want to come right now. And of course, they have to be evaluated. But, they're, for whatever reason, unable to plan in advance. And it's either urgent or whatever. They're on tour somewhere. They're like a lead singer in some band, or their movie's not over yet. Like they want to come right now because they go back on tour or something. That happens. We can accommodate that. But I don't want to disincentivize people who can plan and want to save by charging them all the same amount. And I think that's the fairest way we've come up with to do pricing. And someday, obviously we'd love to lower the prices. We'd love to be able to provide specialized services, extended care, which might increase the price, et cetera. There's a counterintuitive idea, which is someday insurance might cover this. It might be in the United States. And it's always assumed to be a good thing. And then I remember the story my mom told me about going to the hospital. She's like almost 90, just over 90. And she was a nurse her whole life. And she was like, it's hell. Like she has a reasonable amount of means. She didn't go to like a veterinary hospital. She went to a normal hospital in her town. But the people were disincentivized to really take time. They were cost cutting everywhere they could. Like it just seems like the involvement, obviously everyone should have access to quality medical care. I believe that to be true. And some people don't have the means and they deserve to not have to be exploited or not get it or pay what they can't afford. However, and we should offer insurance for that, but when insurance reimbursement is the goal of a business, it seems to like really turn it into a mess for the people who want to go to work in care and the people who really show up needing a different type of care. It's not just McMedicine, no offense to McDonald's. But.
It is pretty rough though, because roughly it seems that you guys, it's probably a range, but they're 240 people per year, or maybe more or a little less, but something around there. And then you think about the amount of people who have just so many addictive type of problems, and it's just something so beneficial like this. You'd hope that more people would be able to become exposed to it, but there seems to be just so many barriers, so it's tough.
Yeah, safety. I mean, it's, the types of talent and tools that we need. Unfortunately, there isn't a supply chain of that is like inexpensive. This isn't like yoga, where somebody could give it to you for free and claim to be doing it the same way. Yeah. And so there's sort of an economic model problem, and there's a supply chain problem with the types of talent and tools we need. On the other hand, what I think we can do, and frankly, every company in this sector and the related sector should do, is we do sponsorships. We have sliding scales. We accelerate admission for certain people from underserved communities, BIPOC, LGBTQIA plus, veterans, first responders, severely handicapped, disabled. Like, we should make access available to as many more people as we possibly can, especially those who are disproportionately represented. They don't even, they're underrepresented and oftentimes adversely impacted. Absolutely. But I agree with you. It would be great, and it will happen, where the cost structure of any early stage innovation does come down. Remember your first flat screen TV?
Oh, shit. Yeah.
So not many people are spending $40,000 or $10,000. I mean, they sell flat screen TVs and, Radio Shack now. It's not, this is absolutely out of reach for too many people. And I personally, we do everything we can to make it accessible, with the exception that we encourage people to do it by themselves. That's not a invitation to success. Success is defined as safe access, effective access. So
what's the effectiveness rate that you got going over there? I know that's probably like a kind of bottom line question that people try to ask, and it might be tough to reference, but.
Well, again, so it's the inverse of conventional rehabilitation. Nearly everyone stays, but not everyone. Of course, some people say hey, I wasn't ready. I came here for a reason that I no longer believe in, my parents, my spouse, whatever. Other people have profound stay. So most people stay, high 90 percentile to high double-digit percentage. So that's the inverse of conventional drug and alcohol rehabilitation counseling. The other is high 90% or over, let's say over 90% of people say, I'm satisfied. It worked. I feel free from the thing that I came here for. Mm-hmm. Now, let's be fair to them and to us, to the degree we can be, because then life shows up. They might be like, shit, I felt great when I was with you, and now I can't sleep. And they have to do work. They have to change their life. Now, I didn't guarantee that we're going to change your life after you left. I can't control their behavior. We can't. We coach them. We counsel them. We give them the materials. We literally build a roadmap to what they can and should do to sustain and compound and amplify the changes that they experience. That's like high double-digit percentage success rate while they're with us. And of those, a small double-digit percentage of people, they don't stick it out. They're, something happens and they decide, you know what, a substance or a behavior that they know is not in alignment with the way of being when they left comes onto their radar and they do it. The good news is they don't keep doing it. Like this GDNF, this experience they had, this learning can't really be unlearned. It can be denied. You can say, oh, I did it because, I'm a chronic relapser, I'm an addict. But we know that doesn't make you relapse again. Mm-hmm. So they don't stay off their path as long. They don't go deep and as much as people do when it's like when they're going to rage use. They went to rehab, they hated it. It was a terrible experience. They don't want to talk about it. Still life's shitty, and now they're going to really show you. People don't do that when they leave our facility. No. They call us right away and they say, I made a mistake. What should I do? Mm-hmm. How can you help? And, mistakes are pretty normal. We're like, great, you did exactly the right thing. And we tell them what we think they should do. And sometimes they come back, 45 days or more later, because they came for chemical dependency, treated that, learned about the trauma, but didn't have time or do the work for the trauma. They come back and do it again, but with a different agenda and intention. That's cool to see.
So I'm actually really
cool to see.
I know it's like you guys haven't been able to do like a direct study or anything, but so potentially 90-something% of people stay and stick it out. But I'm curious, when you mentioned double-digit percentage, I wouldn't say fail, but let's say like that type of situation where like maybe they go back to the chemical. They're not as addicted now, but it happens. What would that range percentage be? Because I know you mentioned double digit.
Sub 10%.
Okay.
I mean, it's the lowest of the double digits, but I want to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
It's sub 10%. It's less than 10 and more than 1. We haven't done that many treats. We're in the hundreds, right? Mm-hmm, so like having someone do that shifts our numbers, but we're going to be honest and tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But again, sustainable abstinence from that behavior is something they have had while they're with us, and they can and they do continue over time. I don't know whether when they relapse, it's for a different cause or whatever, but I would say that the fact that they don't stay relapse, that they have a different relationship to that experience, they want to correct it really quickly. And what's great is a lot of people that have come here are now in touch with each other. Mm-hmm. And so they network off each other and they're like, hey, I'm having some difficulty with sleep or whatever, they talk to each other about it. We do alumni programs every 2 weeks. We do, Zoom meetings, and therapists are there, and that's all free, and people can come and they can talk about it. And then they do group meditations and stuff, and all that stuff helps. Like, we went from like a life experience which was truly exceptionally difficult to now making significant progress. So they've gained a lot of skills and experiences that help them shift when things do go wrong.
Gotcha.
Appreciate your time today. How can people find out more information about you, and where can people sign up and maybe come check out your treatment center?
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate being here. I think you guys are great for having us, for inviting us. I appreciate it very much. Hope to come back. At Beond, Beyond.us or Beyond Us. You can learn about stuff on the web, how we work. We're totally transparent. We give away clinical summaries. We tell you all the questions you should ask any facility. If you're considering this, ask these questions at a minimum. We give you the pricing, everything like that, and all the scholarship programs, et cetera. And then on Instagram at Beyond Us, you can learn more about the types of people that come and the benefits they experience.
Great. I think Andrew and Nsima have like one more question each here.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't run too much longer. But and I'm sorry if I've been misinformed on Ibogaine, but I from what I was told, it can be very, very beneficial for like helping reduce or even eliminate chronic pain. So have you, in the clinic, have you worked with anybody in reducing their pain with Ibogaine?
Yeah, and I hope that wasn't backhanded compliment by saying I'm running long. I apologize if my answers are too long.
No.
Okay, cool. So yes, we do. We've had, remember, pain and drugs oftentimes go hand in hand. People get hurt, they fall down the stairs at the subway, they have a surfing accident, a motorcycle accident, whatever. They get fixed up and then they can't get off the pain meds. That's absolutely the most common pattern. But people who have chronic pain do find that the Ibogaine significantly reduces that pain, and most importantly, shifts their relationship to living with pain. It changes their, they don't walk around saying, I am someone who's in pain all the time. I have pain, I feel pain. And of course, sometimes they may need additional pain medications, remediation. There are types of therapies. They do come for that, and it is successful. But I can't say that if your goal is eliminating all pain from some severe injury. We had one guy, a tech executive who had a surfing accident, broke his neck, and was dead, and had a bunch of surgery, was obviously resuscitated, had a bunch of surgery in his neck. He's got a ton of hardware in his neck. Like, that shit sucks. It hurts. And he has pain, but he got off the opioids and replaced those pain medications with things that were not addictive. And now, of course, he still has some pain. He shouldn't ride his bike 100 miles on the weekends, by the way, but it causes some stress and pain. But yeah, it works for pain.
And then I had a question that is going to sound so dumb and so remedial, but I've heard so many people talk about Ibogaine. And one of the first descriptions I got of Ibogaine years ago, someone said it literally scrubs addictive patterns in the brain. So that made me wonder for a second. I'm like, scrubs addictive patterns? Well, there's a lot of positive patterns we also have, or maybe we perceive them as positive patterns. So if someone were to go and do Ibogaine, would some of those positive patterns that they've set and positive habits also be kind of scrubbed? Or is that just bro science of Ibogaine?
No, I mean, first of all, I'm curious, who do you hang out with where they're talking about Ibogaine all the time, including years? That sounds like my kind of community.
Yeah.
The second thing is what comes to mind is those magic bubbles when they go down they're like animated bubbles going down the drain, and there's no scrubbing going on. There's a shift in the neurotransmitter, the neurons, where it's repairing. It's causing a natural repair to occur that normally happens, but just upregulating that. So causing that to happen more quickly and more comprehensively. So the damage that's happened to your neurons and neurotransmitters is repaired or remediated. The behavior itself there's not hypnotism where we're like, you will no longer eat donuts. No, it's more like you don't want to put poison in your body, and you've been reset. So now you're like, well, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. Maybe I'll change. I'll find some other method to satisfy that need. The behavior doesn't change as a result of the Ibogaine. The conditions in which the behavior is performed change for sure.
Got it.
I hope that makes sense. So,
Makes a lot of sense.
No, my biggest fear when I did it, I mean, look at me. I went in and I was like, I do not want to come out. Please don't take this the wrong way. I do not want to come out as a, quote, man bun wearing, a tooth wearing, like guru kind of bro hippie. Shaman Jr. was the term I used. I didn't want that. I was like, I want all the rationality in my intellect to be intact. I just want to shift my relationship to my life experience. And look, a lot of my friends, some of my closest friends have some of those attributes, and I love them dearly, but that's not for me. That's not for me. And so I didn't want to lose my sense of self, and I didn't. It improved my sense of self by letting me better understand and bear witness to some of the things that are no longer serving me.
We show up in Mexico to meet you, and you're just there in some loincloth, and you got one of those bowls, and you're going, wrong.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, let me get my didgeridoo.
Nice. Hey, thanks.
Listen, I like didgeridoo. I mean, it's cool, but it's just not my thing.
Thanks again for your time, and can't wait to meet you one day in person.
Thank you.
Me too. I can't wait to see you guys in person too, hopefully in Mexico or at
Super
in
Training.
Sacramento.
All right. Catch you
Super
later.
Thanks
See
so
ya.
much. Thank you.
See you later.
Cool stuff, man.
Yo, yeah.
It's a lot to get into, a lot to interact with, and it'll be great when we can get him here in person, kind of ask him a little bit more direct, like, how does getting launched, into fucking outer space, how does that get you to be like, yeah, man, I'm good with alcohol? But we've had other guests on before that have talked about it. It sounds like there's just a lot of work that needs to be done. I could understand how, if somebody had the correct care, how they could do these things and go through a lot of these things without drugs. And I think that, I don't know if there's other treatment centers that do that, but that would make a lot of sense. Addiction, the focus is always on the substance. And it's like, it's not, it's an interesting word, substance. It's like lack of substance that makes you do that thing. There's some sort of hole there that you're trying to fill in, and you keep trying to fill it in, but you're kind of filling it in with the wrong stuff. Feels like the right stuff because it feels fucking great. There's a reason why people love cocaine. There's a reason why people love heroin. The shit works when it's like food. When you really love ice cream and you have ice cream, it works. You love French fries, you eat French fries, fucking works. Makes you, quote unquote, makes you feel great, kind of temporarily. But it seemed like these kind of drugs and this kind of treatment makes you go in deep to working on yourself. And Nsima, you brought this up before. Jordan Peterson has the thing where you can go in and you kind of self-authoring. You're like writing your own story. To me, this sounds like a psychedelic trip of self-authoring, where it's like, I'm gonna read you a bunch of verses from what you wrote, but it's gonna be just picking up your story in a bunch of random spots. And you're not gonna know what to do with any of it. But here we go, and it's like just read off to you. That's what it sounds like in his description. it's just read off to you in this spurt of maybe an hour, 2 hours. He said he was kind of on this voyage for half the day, basically, but kind of reminds me of that. And so I think for people out there that don't have hope, I think if I ran into an issue, I probably wouldn't get help. I'd probably be just like anybody else in those situations. I'd probably be in denial. But if I had some people close to me that were kind enough to tell me, motherfucker, you need to go get help, I would really love to explore psychological help. That's where I think I would start, because I think that's the biggest issue.
That was massively perceptive in terms of the self-authoring pullout, because what that program does is, first off, it takes the whole program takes more than a day to finish the whole thing. It's like you're writing and like writing within this journal type sequence for multiple weeks, because you go to your future authoring, what you want your future, you pay attention to your present, and then you dive deep into your past, and it prompts you with certain questions about things that happened to you in your past. And it gives you things that you need to think about and try to remember. And what he was talking about here is he was launched into space, but then he was able to remember these things that came up in his life, where then he was thinking about it. And that's what that self-authoring program has you do. It's like you think about a situation in your past and you write about it, you author about it. And most of the time, we may have had things that happen to us, but we don't take the time to analyze them, write them out, and truly think about them to see how they're affecting us in our current present. And that's, you're right. Like a lot of this stuff you could do without, Ibogaine, right? But from when you brought up the self-improvement aspect of just like, because with a lot of these things, some people are like, well, I don't have a problem, so I don't need to do shrooms, or I don't have a problem, so I don't need to do this. But at the end of the day, like, you might not feel like you have a problem, but maybe it could help you improve something.
We all got a problem.
We all have problems of all sorts.
Something buried somewhere in there that's not allowing you to, like, anyone can be better at anything, right?
Exactly.
Everybody can improve on some aspect.
Yeah.
Even Elon Musk, who people put on a pedestal, or The Rock, or whomever we're talking about, we all would, like, those guys will admit, yeah, man, I'm really weak in these like 17. They'll probably give you a list. Here's all the spots I'm weak, because they're so self-aware of a lot of these things.
But what comes to mind is the therapy thing. Like, and I'm talking about just pure, therapist to the individual. When therapy is brought up to many individuals, it's like, well, I don't have issues. I don't have a problem. I don't need therapy. But I could go into therapy and get a lot of help with a lot of shit, and I don't perceive myself as having huge issues, but I probably do.
Well,
right?
look at the exercise selection that we have now. A lot of the stuff we're doing is rehabilitation work. What are we really rehabilitating from?
Yeah.
Like, we're not injured.
Uh-huh.
But these things have great utility. They have great use. They're allowing us to work on stuff that we're like, oh my God, I feel that in my knee. And you and I don't necessarily have a deep-rooted like knee thing at the moment. We feel good. We feel strong. Oh my God, I feel that in my oblique. I'm not thinking like, oh, I need to work my obliques. But these rehab exercises are kind of connecting the whole body together. And I think if you self-author, if you go through and you scrub through your life and what you want your life to look like and what you want your life to not look like, you can really, maybe you can think of people in your own family and you could say, what would my life look like if I acted this way? If I acted like my oldest brother, what would my life look like? What would my life look like? What would happen to me if I cheated on my wife? Fucking write that out for a minute. And then you might think twice about whatever actions that might precede that, because it's like, wow, that not only am I cheating on my wife, but I'm cheating on my entire family, cheating on my daughter, cheating on my son. That's like some real deep shit. You can write some of that out before that fucking freight train comes and runs your ass over before you even get close to it.
The program. Oh, no, by the way, the program does have you write out an alternative negative future. Yes. It literally prompts you to, because you'll write out all the things that you might be doing that are negative, and then it'll prompt you to write, what happens if you maintain this? Think about what your future would be if you maintain this habit. What does that future look like? And when you write that shit out, you immediately realize it's not the greatest future.
Like, you might think, oh man, I really like alcohol. I love it. It's awesome. And then you write out, well, my dad passes away, unfortunately, out of nowhere. And then boom, I'm down this path of drinking too much and not being able to handle life. And now that's my mitigator of stress instead of running or whatever it might be. I mean, you can kind of walk yourself through some of this. And most of us, unfortunately, have either rubbed up against this ourselves, or we've seen other family members or friends go through it. And we know exactly what it all looks like. So you could write it out pretty
well.
far.
Yeah, that's like what I call a pre-gret. So it's like you kind of you feel the regret of what could potentially happen, and then you're just like, fuck, that feels terrible. I'm gonna make sure I don't do that. You know, it's like a preventative measure.
Yeah.
What's wild, dude, Andrew, is like your experiences with breath work. I've done so much breath work,
dude, it's
but
amazing.
I've never had your experiences. And when you mentioned it the first time, I'm like, really? And then you're like, and then you do it over and over. I'm just like, damn, Andrew is a fucking guru.
I'm gonna have the long beard and just like wear the loincloth and all that. But and I, you know, I don't know. It feels weird like to brag about it, but like when he was talking about how like oh, I was hanging from the ceiling. I've done that too.
Yeah.
Like I've been like laying down on the floor, and it's like, oh shit, I'm actually on the ceiling upside down looking down at the floor. And it's like, huh, how am I going to get down from here?
But
and it's just all through breath
I got to
work.
give you guys this this link that a friend of ours, friend of my brother's sent me, this guy JP, who we're going to have on the show if we try his breath work and we dig it. He said you got to try it first. It's different than some other stuff, but he just sent me a link the other day.
Okay.
And he wants me to give it a go, so we can give that a try and see if we have different. He's like I'm going to tell you it's going to be a different experience than what you've experienced before. And I tried to tell him like we've done some of this stuff before, but he swears it's going to be different. So we'll give it a shot.
I cannot wait. Because
right.
when I did it with Belisa Vranich, I had a different type of experience than what I've had with like Justin Lovato's program, but it was pretty close.
I get a little bit of it in the cold plunge.
Oh man,
especially listening to Wim Hof.
So
he's suggestive, you know.
Yeah.
You may feel your hands and feet, you know, getting warm or whatever. I'm like, they are getting warm. I really feel warm.
I'm not even cold anymore.
The water's boiling. I can't believe this.
But you know, Andrew, it's like people have different propensities to have different experiences at levels. Like that guy was talking about Duolingo became a fucking addiction for him. He was like spending 6 hours on Duolingo. Like it just seems that like there are certain things for him that he'll just take it there. And he has the ability to take it there. And it seems like for you, when it comes to like a lot of this breathwork stuff, you just have this ability to go somewhere where someone like me will have to try so hard, but probably the aspect of it is because I'm trying so hard, I can't.
Yeah.
Or I'm just not, you know?
There was one time where I was like, all right, I'm going to have a freaking we're going all in. So I took like a gram of mushrooms and then I was waiting and it kicked in and all of a sudden like things were looking weird. I'm like, all right, let's do this. I started breath work and it was so fucked up. The whatever entity that I run into on a regular basis in the spirit realm was like, we know what you're doing. And it's not going to work. You are trying to shortcut this thing when instead you need to just frequently visit us more.
Yeah.
And so they kicked me out and I got nothing. And I was like, fuck.
Dude.
It totally just were like, you're not cool today. Sorry. You can't come in with this like cheap ass shortcut. I'm like, dang it. And so then after that, it was pretty cool. But yeah, it's fucking wild.
When are we going to Mexico, guys?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. What part of Mexico? That looks like fun.
I have some family over there. We can fucking just
Potentially, depending on where it
hang out
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and I hope that you know, more things like this get kind of I guess allowed. I guess you'd say, because there's a lot of people that are suffering. I think people need alternative means. Seems like some of the things that we have in this country don't work great. Most things are just like pharmaceutical, or most things are like just through this giant scam of ours that we call insurance, which is a fucking whole nother topic and a whole nother mess in and of itself. Insurance is a weird thing because people think like, I'll see if my insurance, but like you always pay. Like you always pay, like no matter what. I guess it's just all fucked up because, you know, like the hospitals, they pay for these machines, like an MRI machine or X-ray machine. It's like, how much does it really fucking cost to have a couple of these things? Why can't some regular people buy one? Like, why can't I have one in the gym? And if you wanted to get an MRI, I can't buy one though. Like, even if I had the money to buy one, you can't really buy one because you need to be like a medical professional for that. But like, how great would it be to be like, I don't know, I think something wrong happened to my ankle, and you just fucking take a look at it, take a look under the hood. But people don't want us poking around and looking at stuff. You got to go to the experts, and then they put giant price tags on it that don't really make sense, and they will never tell you how much something costs. Like, hey, is it $700? Is it $200? Is it $2,500? Can you please just let me know how much it fucking costs so I can come and get that shit checked out?
You know what's actually kind of cool, and I wish I saw this a few weeks ago, but there are a few things that people can do. Like, if someone goes to an emergency room or they get they have to be in a hospital, and usually sometimes people come back with these massive bills.
Yeah.
There are ways to dispute those things. And it take like this thing most people don't know, and I didn't know, but you can like be like, wait, this was $8,300. How much of this medication was I given? How much of this medication, did you guys give me this? And then somehow the bill is actually like ends up being, okay, well, you only have to pay $1,500. But no one knows, including myself, I didn't know this either. No one knows to go and dispute. Because if you dispute, a lot of the charges that you're given at hospitals, sometimes you can get a lot of that taken off. And people have come back and been like, well, I had this $9,000 medical bill that's now, for some reason, $1,600 because I was charged for a lot of shit that really wasn't given to me. Yeah, so like, there's a lot of shit in this system that will overcharge you. And also, have you guys seen The Good Nurse?
Oh yeah, the movie? Yeah, that was crazy.
There's also a documentary. You haven't seen it? Doesn't that kind of fucking make you mad?
Oh, yeah, it was insane.
It's the hospitals, or those hospitals were literally, because it was a true story, those hospitals were trying to protect a killer so that they didn't have to pay the legal bills of turning this guy in. Like, they'd get sued, and they did get sued, but they're protecting somebody who was killing patients. This nurse was going through and giving and
this guy may have killed like 1,500 people or something. Wild. It was nuts.
By putting shit into their IV bag. Yeah. It's like a drug called digoxin or something. And the hospital literally, like, when they saw him doing it, they just transferred him to another hospital, and then transferred him to another hospital if he got found out there. Because if it came back and it was like, they would owe, and they do owe, so much money to the victims. And there's so many people that like they know he killed, but like Mark mentioned, so many more, but the hospital was protecting him. And I'm not saying hospitals are bad, but I'm saying that not everything that is supposed to be good for you is always good for you.
I'm going to see if I have a friend of mine who's a doctor who's pretty high up. I'm going to see if I can get him. It's hard, because it's hard to get people to, like, when they're in the medical field, it's hard to get them to open up and talk authentically about much of anything because they're fearful of criticism, I'll see if he'll come on the show, because I also think that there's a whole other side of the medical thing where people really do want to help. People do, they do want to meet somebody. They do want to shake their hand. They do want the person and the family to know you're in safe care. I'm performing open heart surgery. I'm going to save your life. So we talk about doctors and we talk about these visits all the time on the show, kind of in a negative light. And, the first person I'm going to go to if something catastrophic happens to me out of nowhere is to the fucking hospital. And I'm going to go to a doctor and I'm going to try to get the best help and care that I can get. I'm not going to go to my brother and be like, yo, can you cut me open and take a look inside? So there are a lot of people that really care. It's just some of the system that we have is a little bit confusing on, like, just even something as simple as just having a doctor that you see every other year so that you can have preventative care instead of just what we have, which is kind of more of sick care, which is just kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's just one of those things where, like, right, the person could have all good intentions, but once they get in, somebody's like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you have to get approval, you got to get the referral, and, this whole thing of like, well, we're not going to pay to cover the patient stuff, right? We have to get paid, and then we can, take care of it. Because, like, when I got my vasectomy, it got canceled because the insurance didn't approve it. And I was like, but my balls are nice and shaved, and I've been nervous all day for this thing. What do you mean it's not going to go through? Like, it was a weird thing where I was like,
Oh, wait. Sir, you shaved your balls already?
Yeah, they're like,
bring him in.
yeah.
Go ahead and dump him in here.
Yes. And then I guess you have like,
They're like, nurse, he shaved his balls. Like,
Like,
all
yep.
right, yeah, bring him in.
yeah, it was not the good nurse. She
All right,
was-
let's go.
She was old.
Yeah.
She didn't paint my toenails though.
Mr. Kruger.
Yeah, that was funny.
That's great.
Like, is your wife listening? And she's like, yeah, no, it's all good.
That was a little peculiar, I'll say.
Yeah, if some nah, dog, like I'd never let some random woman paint my toe. Like that's just there's too many questions to answer
That's
there.
funny,
It's like
yeah.
I put myself in a bad situation.
so funny.
But,
Imagine
hey,
that. Imagine if your girl was like, yeah, my feet kind of hurt. So the steward guy, he just started rubbing my feet.
Like, really?
excuse me.
You'd be like, and how many times did you come during this? Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
19 times. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Please drop some comments down below. Let us know what you guys think about today's conversation. Hit the like button and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where you at?
Power Project Discord down below. The website at this point will probably have some new stuff in there. So pay attention to that. And then also, guys,
Dun, dun, dun.
these
Those.
Black Friday,
Nice sandals.
our power sandals are coming out. So keep an eye out for them. You've been seeing us wear them. You've been seeing us running and walking them. They're coming soon. So keep an eye out. Mark,
All right. I got Smelly's tip for you.
What you got?
big one.
This is really simple. Just encourage other people to maybe pick up on something that you're doing. So you guys have been jiu-jitsuing fucking all over the place, jiu-jitsu chops and throws and laser beams and everything all over the place.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that someone just took up, whether it's fucking running, lifting, jiu-jitsu, see if you can get someone else to go with you. See if you can grab somebody and maybe they'll go for a walk with you. Maybe they'll go for a run with you. I know, Thanksgiving is coming up. Maybe during the holidays when a lot of people, when they get together, their families get together, and sometimes there's younger people that have some energy. Maybe you can convince some of those younger people to go on a walk with you or to do something. But if it's like a little kid, you can't just go on a walk with them because they're like to wear. So you might have to be creative and make up some bullshit or something. But anyway, I just want to encourage people to do that, to get people to move. Motion is the lotion. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.